That is fascinating that a man would come to this country and rail against immigrants unless he doesn't consider himself to be an immigrant for some odd reason. I guess immigrants can only look or be a certain way. Hi, my name is Reese Waters, and this is Who Raised Y'all? Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the page, and shout out to all of our new members here on the channel. This is where we highlight those unique individuals who are going above and beyond to make our society worse. The people you will see asking to speak to the manager at the pearly gates. Now, we've all seen Elon Musk uncoordinated jumping into our 2024 election.
Is the only reason we can now send American astronauts into space. Come here. Take over, Elon. Yes, take over.
Hi, everyone. As you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark MAGA.
Well, as Donald Trump's niece, Mary Trump, wrote in Substack, he was celebrating his recent purchase of a new individual. Quote, Donald Trump has always been for sale. Given this decades-long pattern, it's not surprising that the world's richest fascist South African jumping bean Elon Musk would also be interested in purchasing a few shares in a man who's willing to sell whatever it is he can get his hands on, whether it's stakes or American national security, because he values money more than anything. I would also add the sneakers and the watches and the Bibles. You think those Bibles come with both Corinthians? Come with two Corinthians, right? And if you're possibly wondering exactly how significant the impact could be of Elon Musk's recent purchase of Donald Trump, I give you Exhibit A.
So that there's a lot of fat in government that you would want to slim down.
Incredible fat.
So what agencies would you want to shut down?
Well, let me have you ask another person that, because I'm going to have Elon Musk. He is dying to do this. You know, he's a great business guy, actually. You think of him for science and rockets, and every time I think he's telling me about a new screw that was developed, he's developed a new screw. Screws are difficult, and it's made out of titanium, and it's so exciting. But you know what? He's a great business guy, and he's a great cost cutter. You've seen that. And he said, I could cut costs without affecting anybody.
So he will be in the cabinet?
Not in the cabinet. He doesn't want to be in the cabinet. He just wants to be in charge of cost cutting. We'll have a new position, Secretary of Cost Cutting, okay? Elon wants to do that. And we have incredible people. He's running a big business. You know, he can't just say, oh, I think I'll go into the cabinet. You know, other people can. He can't. But Elon's a little bit different in that sense. And besides that, I want him to send the rocket up to Mars. He said, he's made me a promise he'll get to Mars before the end of my administration, which will be long before, hopefully, China or Russia.
My man just couldn't even name one thing. He just like, they got it. They good. They good down there. You know, the kind of boss that has no idea what happens on the floor, which, by the way, that is the kind of boss that you want. The kind that just has no idea how the operation even works. What are they doing down there? What's with all that twirling? They're making dough, sir. You own a pizza shop? Which completely diminishes any significance of him disavowing Project 2025. Because as I stated at the time, there's a realistic possibility he has no idea what that is, because there's a realistic possibility he has no idea what many basic things are that the rest of us learn in junior high school. That's why he has completely run out of gas on the campaign trail. He can't explain anything. He He just loafing around while people play music. Also, I would like to amend my prior statement. I actually would not like to work for Donald Trump because he doesn't pay people. And also because of the ends. And we saw the effects of the Elon Musk-Donald Trump partnership already as Trump's campaign connected with Elon Musk last month to discuss hacked Trump campaign materials which were circulating on the platform before X blocked links to the files and banned the independent journalists who published the materials. The research dossier published by Ken Klippenstein, allegedly the result of an Iranian government-supported hacking operation, contained internal communications from a senior Trump campaign official and materials the campaign had put together on Senator J.D. Vance before Trump named him his running mate. Following his publication of the dossier on Substack last month, Klippenstein shared that his X account had been suspended for violating the platform's rules on posting private information. An X spokesperson told CNN that Klippenstein had been temporarily suspended from the platform for violating our rules on posting unredacted private personal information. But Klippenstein later shared a screenshot showing he had been permanently banned. CNN was told that the Trump campaign had a conversation with X officials about the hacked materials before Klippenstein was banned and links to his newsletter were blocked. Now, while Klippenstein's posts on X contained a link to his Substack page, itself containing a link to a PDF of the dossier, he didn't directly share Vance's information on the social media platform. X's suppression of the dossier came in contrast to Meta's approach, which opted to block users from sharing Klippenstein's newsletter, but allowed both his Instagram and Facebook accounts to remain active, which is one better than me, because they didn't allow mine to remain active, and I didn't post nothing. What's up with that, Zuckerberg? In July, Politico flagged that its reporters had received emails from an individual offering a similar trove of private documents from inside the Trump campaign. Both the Times and the Washington Post likewise reported being contacted by someone with campaign information. All three outlets ultimately opted against publishing the materials that were later reported to have been the result of a hack. Now, the move by Elon Musk and X to block links to the newsletter comes after Musk selectively released Twitter company documents, which he dubbed the Twitter files, claiming that the U.S. government illegally coerced the social media company into censoring links to a 2020 New York Post article about Hunter Biden. Company executives later said they regretted the decision, and Twitter's own lawyers later wrote that the government did not engage in coercion or censorship. Musk has styled his 2022 acquisition of Twitter, which he regrettably renamed X, as an attempt to foster a so-called free digital public square and railed against censorship. But the ban on Klippenstein and suppression of all links to his newsletter in connection with the Trump campaign raises questions about the platform's favoring of Trump. So let's unpack that. Trump officials connecting with Elon Musk in order to make sure that none of J.D. Vance's dossier and any links to any of that materials was being disseminated on his platform. And you juxtapose that with the accusation that Twitter had previously worked in coercion with the Biden campaign in order to suppress information about Hunter Biden. So this was something that apparently was so much of a problem that you released private documents from your own company, but then you turn around and do the very thing that was so problematic before in order to protect Trump. You know, I gotta wonder, like, who raised Elon Musk? Like, who, do you know we can see you, right? You understand we can see you. That makes about as much sense as trying to work to promote one of the political parties and one specific candidate to such a degree that you start hosting him on your platform and showing up to his campaign events and jumping in an uncoordinated fashion. Your ability to help him is totally kneecapped by virtue of the fact that we can all see just how shameless and one-sided you're being. I mean, really, that is just basic logic. Like, we learned that in school. Like, was he homeschooled? Like, I don't understand how who raised Elon Musk? Actually, I wasn't even talking about that. I wasn't talking about that neither. These are all phenomenal, but keep going.
I had this one guy who would want to see me, and when I had nothing, else to do, then I would see him. But he was very insulting to people and rude, and I didn't really like him that much. But then, otherwise, I just sat at home, After a couple of years, my brother banned him from seeing me. For 2 years, I didn't see him. I graduated and went to live in Cape Town, and he came to visit me, just turned up with an engagement ring. And I said, I'll never wear it. And then he went back and told my family that I'd agreed to marry him, which surprised my family because they didn't know I was seeing him, and I wasn't. And then I just got this telegram from my parents, congratulations. The wedding arrangements are made, the invites are out, and 800 people are coming. I called him, I said, what do you mean I'm marrying you? And he said, I will change when we get married, because then I'll be kinder and nicer. I'm just aggressive because you won't marry me. So I did believe him. And then I fell pregnant on honeymoon.
Now that all makes perfect sense. It really, really does, because as much as I want none of Elon Musk on my television, on my screen, on my phone, he just won't go about his business. Like, he really forcibly presents himself to all of us on a regular basis. Like, I have had my fill. I have checked out. I have walked out of the store, and they're following me to the parking lot, still trying to sell me jelly. Like, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good on Elon Musk. And then one of our subscribers and members here on the channel, Carlene, sent me this. According to a report from the Wall Street Journal, Musk poured tens of millions of dollars into Republican campaigns and conservative groups even before he publicly endorsed Trump in July. Conservatives helped conceal his contributions through so-called social welfare or dark money groups that don't have to disclose their donors and can raise unlimited funds. And that would have been useful, and those kind of contributions would have continued to go unnoticed, if he didn't show up and jump like a fourth grader at the campaign. Man, clout really is a hell of a drug. One piece of reporting stood out. The newspaper found that the tech billionaire donated more than $50 million in 2022 for campaign advertisements by Citizens for Sanity, a group connected to former Trump aide Stephen Miller and his nonprofit America First Legal, which bills itself as the long-awaited answer to the ACLU. Yes, we've all wanted an answer to the organization that protects our civil liberties. Yeah, we've all been looking for somebody to tamp that down. And by the way, this is the Stephen Miller in question.
We just have to address the elephant in the room. We're getting a lot of texts from women about Miller and his appearances and his appearance. Our audience at primetime believes you're some sort of sexual matador. What do you have to say for yourself?
Well, let me give advice to any young man that's out there. I'm married now, I have children, but I wasn't married that long ago. I was single, I was in the market. If you're a young man, it's very important in election season, who's looking to impress ladies, to be the alpha, to be attractive. The best thing you can do is to wear your Trump support on your sleeve. Show that you are a real man. Show that you are not a beta, right? Be a proud and loud Trump supporter, and your dating life will be fantastic.
I cannot wait to see the text tonight.
What would he want with Stephen Miller? I'll keep reading. Ties to Miller back in 2022 illuminate Musk's current penchant for posting about immigrants. Musk has increasingly aligned himself with xenophobic anti-migrant plans and trans hysteria championed by Miller within the Trump administration. That is fascinating that a man would come to this country and rail against immigrants unless he doesn't consider himself to be an immigrant for some odd reason. I guess immigrants can only look or be a certain way. Is that what I'm supposed to take for all of that? I mean, what could have created the kind of mind that would look at the world in such a way?
I, Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, do hereby swear to be faithful to the Republic of South Africa.
That moment in South Africa when Nelson Mandela became president, giving hope to people not just in South Africa, but around the world. An anti-apartheid activist and former political prisoner inaugurated as president of South Africa just 4 years after the end of apartheid. But for Afrikaners, meaning South Africans of European descent, it was a moment of panic. Think Jim Crow America.
All I want is my churches must be white, my schools must be white, and my residence area should be white also.
And while some Afrikaners welcomed the end of apartheid, many others fled in fear of black power. It was known as the White Exodus. Some of MAGA's most significant backers were teenagers or very young adults when apartheid was eradicated. The Financial Times ticks them off. We have Elon Musk, who lived in South Africa until he was 17.
Now it's starting to, now it's starting to land. Now it's starting to make a little bit of sense. One thing I find so fascinating, though, is that if I would have grown up in that kind of world, that kind of environment, and I objected to the subjugation of the Black South Africans at the time, then I would be pretty vocal in my assertions of equality once I emerge from that. Like I happen to think that that amount of warping, if I saw it as being problematic, would have me be pretty loud in divorcing myself from that kind of world. Now, at minimum, I could say, because we all have different personalities and different makeups, maybe it triggers me, and maybe I just don't interact with that at all. Maybe I just can't interface with it, and so I run as far away from it as possible. Those are two possible non-racist reactions that I could see from somebody that grew up in that environment. But for you to emerge from that environment and rail against immigrants, rail against DEI, and have discrimination lawsuits levied at you and your company leaves me nowhere to go. But that is what you see as the correct construction of society. You left me nowhere to go, Elon.
The Financial Times ticks them off. We have Elon Musk, who lived in South Africa until he was 17. David Sacks, the venture capitalist who left as a child and who has become a fundraiser for Donald Trump and a troll of Ukraine. Peter Thiel, an early Trump backer who spent years of his childhood in South Africa and Namibia, where his father was involved in uranium mining as part of the apartheid regime's drive to acquire nuclear weapons. And a lesser-known Paul Furber, a South African software developer and tech journalist living near Johannesburg, who has been identified by two teams of forensic linguists as the originator of the QAnon conspiracy, an allegation Furber denies.
Wow! Not only Trump's Elon Musk, but Vance's Peter Thiel, both emerging from South Africa. Ooh, that puts a spin on this ticket. It really puts a spin on this ticket. And beyond this ticket and what some of the ramifications might be, how about the fact that they all have found a very comfortable home on the right wing? I'm gonna need to holler at a great many of you and asking, what are the chances that 3 of your biggest financial backers came from apartheid South Africa? Just a coincidence, right?
All of these men, their formative experiences in apartheid South Africa. Now, we in America are facing a moment when our politics are turning into their politics. Maga is sounding more and more like the old Afrikaner parties, ranting about low birth rates, going after immigration and portraying immigrants of color as violent savages. The idea that democracy will end if their white male patriarch is not elected. They're going so far as to lie about the opposing party, about whether the Biden-Harris administration is actually helping people in a hurricane, or lying and claiming disaster relief funds are being diverted to help undocumented immigrants. Lies, lies, all lies. And let's not forget their overarching lie about climate change being a hoax. Even as Hurricane Milton strengthened from a tropical storm to a Category 5 hurricane in just over a day, part of a trend of rapidly intensifying storms fueled by the climate crisis. But instead of putting their energy toward helping those in need, these Republicans are looking to terrify people with racist, dehumanizing lies about Haitians or Venezuelans, and Trump's now thrown in people from the Congo. The point is to terrify white voters and vulnerable voters of color into running into the arms of the autocrat, Trump, the only one who can save them from the savages.
I have another question that occurred to me because you watched the beginning of this clip where they showed the archival footage from the 80s in South Africa and saw how cringy and uncomfortable that was to see people speaking and responding to other human beings in that way. That was 40 years ago. Maga, y'all think y'all gonna look different? I'm just wondering, like, you just, from what you just saw, y'all think you're gonna look different when we look back on this time, given that everything is, I'm just wondering, you know what I mean? Because we all got phones now. It's gonna be a lot of archival footage, all right? It's gonna be a whole lot of it. Matter of fact, I saw the flag my man had. We just saw the same flag at the Laura Trump boat party. So, oof. It's gonna be a lot of clips. That's all I'm saying. It's gonna be a whole lot of clips.
It is the Afrikaning of American politics, which should alarm us greatly, given the brutality, fascism, and racism of the apartheid era, and how right-wing Afrikaners like Elon Musk may have been shaped by growing up and coming of age during the institutionalized oppression of Black people and its abrupt, ignominious end. The Financial Times notes how Musk warned in 2023 about potential genocide of white people in South Africa. Trump's recent claim about American girls being raped and murdered by savage criminal aliens preyed on similar white fears. It is far from a coincidence that this is happening as Democrats are fielding a Black presidential candidate for the 3rd time in 5 elections, and why the leader of the Republicans is now an extremist known for enabling white supremacists and who is reviving race science as part of the discourse, as he did again in an interview today on conservative commentator Hugh Hewitt's podcast.
You know, now a murderer, I believe this, it's in their genes. And we got a lot of bad genes in our country right now.
Now, on that point, Trump, we can actually agree. We have indeed a lot of bad genes in our country right now. I just think we're looking in opposite directions. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and also a special thank you to all of our subscribers and members here on the channel. I'm just about to roll out the first batch of badges and emoji, and I'm taking your suggestions on what you think would look nice in the chat or look nice next to your name when you leave a comment. Email me at reese@reesewaters.com and let me know what your suggestion would be. We are on the precipice of 200K. What do? We throw a party? We do a special live? You know what? I'm gonna surprise you.